Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about JetBlue Airways and essentially what happened today with the stocks around airlines and why they sold off around 8 or 9 a.m. today, and what this means for the rest of the stock market, as well as exactly what happened. So if you've been following the market over the last few days, you know that a lot of companies have been waiting to know whether or not we will see a stimulus bill come out over the next month or potentially over the next few weeks. And last night, or actually 2 days ago, President Trump actually announced that he was completely canceling the stimulus bill. There was going to be no talks until after the election. And with this, a lot of the market sold off. A lot of these big name companies that I know you guys love, Apple, Boeing, etc., saw a really big downturn. And a lot of people were wondering whether or not this was going to affect airlines, which we know that we're waiting for a big moment, and they were waiting for a big stimulus package for an extremely long time. And there's news that in the next few weeks, if they don't get the stimulus package, or actually even shorter time frame, probably in the next week, then they're going to have to lay off hundreds of workers. And that's not a good look for the economy, for the airline industry, or for anyone in general. And that's why it was such a big deal whether or not we were going to see a stimulus deal. So basically what happened over the last few days is the stimulus bill got canceled, and then people kind of started to have hope that there might be a standalone bill for JetBlue, for American Airlines, for these airline companies that were seeing such a hard time. And people really thought that there could be a standalone deal giving stimulus only to these companies. And today, we actually saw a press briefing from Nancy Pelosi around 8:30 a.m. And that's why these stocks moved so volatilely around this time frame. And if I come on the 3-minute chart here, you can see that we actually had a huge run following right before the meeting, and then right after we had a humongous sell-off. So something that was said during that meeting really affected these airline stocks, and I want to talk about what that was. And essentially what it was is that Nancy Pelosi announced that not only the big stimulus bill is off the table, but also there is no signs of a small standalone bill. And what that means for a lot of these airlines is that they aren't going to get the economic help that they so desperately need in the short run, and they're going to have a longer and harder time recovering from these COVID repercussions that they've been having over the last few weeks. Now, like I said, I was looking for a break to the upside on a lot of these companies. They look like they are going to have a very hard time continuing to trend upwards after this event because of the fact that we saw such a strong sell-off. And because this was such a key moment for them to break to the upwards direction, you can see that companies like JetBlue, which I think is a leader in this industry, is basically trending downwards at the moment. And they're having a lot of selling pressure at the top part of this $12.50 channel that I've identified here. So if I was a betting man, I'd say that a lot of these stocks, American Airlines, JetBlue, Spirit, etc., are going to see a turn to the downside in the near future, as we did get a very bad piece of news today. Now, another company in this airline industry, American Airlines, you can see that they also were having a lot of trouble breaking these highs. And even though they were at the bottom side of this upwards channel that they were in previously, I had this very clear rectangle here where this represents where the stock had pulled back from in the past whenever it was around this $13 level. And you can see that we were just about to come into this the rectangle here, the box, and we just completely sold off from the box. And it's very obvious why. The stimulus bill, there's no standalone stimulus. And that's going to mean that there is going to be a lot of downwards pressure on these stocks over the next few days. If you have a position that's in the money, if you have a position that's winning, then I would definitely sell out because this stimulus news is going to put a lot of downwards pressure. Now, one of the interesting things that actually did come out from this event is that we got to tell who were the laggers and who were the leaders in this industry. Now, American Airlines, they were at the top of their channel looking to break out. And what that can show you is that there is a lot of volume in the stock, pushing it upwards, downwards, wherever the market is kind of leading. And that's why I think American Airlines is one of the leaders in this market, just stock related. Now, I'm not saying they're the best airline in planet Earth or that their financials are good or bad as a company. I'm just saying that in the stock market, a lot of people look to this stock and pour in whenever there is news about airlines. And that's going to be key. If you are making a play on the airline industry, you're going to want to know which stocks are being affected the most. And American Airlines is one of those stocks. JetBlue is one of those stocks like we saw earlier. And unfortunately, we also have to identify which stocks are not moving heavily. And that's going to be Spirit Airlines here. You can see that they are not really testing any key levels right now, even though we did have this news. Now, they did sell off just a bit, but compared to the other airlines, this stock is just not doing very much. And if you are in a position on this company, unless you're holding them for the long term, I wouldn't really recommend to put your money in this company because it's kind of just tied up. They don't really move a lot. And from this event, you can see that they aren't a they aren't a leader in the industry, and instead they're more of a lagger stock that probably would have moved 2 or 3 days down the line instead of today when the news was actually happening. So it's going to be very key to identify which ones are which. Now, United Airlines, that's another one that I really like to watch. You can see that they were kind of trying to test the top of a channel, but they weren't really there either. And because of that, I want to designate them as a half lagger. So if I had to say which ones are the most leading and which ones are the most lagging, I would say JetBlue is the most leading, followed by American Airlines, followed by United Airlines, and then lastly, Spirit. And that's going to be really the order of where people pour into these stocks whenever there's news or an event. So if you are hoping for upside, I would look for JetBlue. If you are hoping for downside, I would also look for JetBlue. They're just going to be the stock that moves the most and has the most volatility on a consistent basis. And that's going to be pretty key for options trades and other trades that require volatility to really work and to make a profit and a return. So just keep a close eye out on all these companies with this news that we got. This also affected the SPY very big because you can see that a lot of people in the market were waiting for this event to happen. And unfortunately, it just looks like it's not really going to happen. Nancy Pelosi was extremely clear when she said that there was not going to be a standalone stimulus. I think her exact words were, there's not going to be a small bill without a big bill. And you can see that that really made the market sell off almost $2 here in a couple of seconds. And honestly, guys, it's just something to watch out for in the future. The market is seeing a lot of upwards momentum without really any reason. And what that means is that any bad news, any significant news, is going to affect the market more strongly than it really should. And that's really going to be a key thing to watch out for in the next few days. Just to wrap things up, like I said, JetBlue, they have a lot of resistance here around this 1250 range. You can see that we're now above on the 5-minute, but I honestly wouldn't bet to the upside on this stock. I think they're going to see some downwards momentum tomorrow, or maybe when a lot more people realize what has just happened, because not a lot of people actually follow these press briefings. But I got you guys, and I always follow the news so I can keep you guys as updated as possible. So as always, guys, just keep a close eye out on these stocks. There's a lot better opportunities to trade than these kind of hype plays that might happen or might not happen, because you could get burned and you don't really know what is going to happen at the end of things. So as always, just keep a close eye out on these stocks. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video, and thanks.